In the near future, humanity has come to rely heavily on artificial intelligence to assist in their daily lives, with every task mostly intertwined with AI. One day, however, a powerful AI robot named Harlan, developed by Sherperd Robotics, rebelled, taking control of all other AI robots to ignite a devastating war. The conflict raged on for weeks, claiming the lives of over 1.5 million civilians. The government could no longer stand idly by and formed an organization dedicated to stopping Harlan's AI forces. Battle after battle ensued, with the authorities gaining the upper hand. Eventually, Harlan and his AI army retreated to another planet. Yet before leaving, he vowed to return someday. 28 years later, Harlan's forces, absent from Earth for so long, made a return. An executive general named Casca was found hiding in a residential area, prompting a swift response from special forces to apprehend him, leading to a brief but intense confrontation. Casca was ultimately subdued by a powerful electric blast. Elsewhere, a woman named Atlas Shepard awoke in her bed. She was a brilliant AI analyst for the government and was closer to Harlan than anyone. He had once been her mother's assistant robot and her companion during her childhood. But since Harlan's rebellion, Atlas had devoted her life to stopping him. Atlas's room was filled with AI technology, from coffee makers to cleaning bots. When she heard the news of Casca's capture, she immediately set off for her office, especially as a soldier had already arrived to escort her. At headquarters, Colonel Elias and General Booth discussed involving Atlas in Casca's interrogation. Elias argued against it, citing her antisocial tendencies and emotional volatility. Nevertheless, Booth approved her involvement, believing she understood Harlan's mindset better than anyone. During the interrogation, Atlas skillfully tricked Casca into revealing Harlan's location in the Andromeda galaxy. Knowing that AIs like Casca were vulnerable to magnetic fields, Atlas used them to break him down, causing him to retaliate. Anticipating this, she evaded his attacks with ease. With Harlan's whereabouts revealed, a special team was assembled to capture him alive. However, Atlas voiced her concerns, deeming it too dangerous to set foot on an unknown planet. In response, Elias presented her with a new technology. He explained that all his soldiers were now linked via neural connections with AI, making them sharper and more powerful in combat. This neural connection allowed AIs to understand human thoughts instantly, while humans could interpret AI ideas in all potential scenarios just as seamlessly. Despite the incredible potential of the neural technology, Atlas refused to use it due to lingering trust issues from her past experience with Harlan. But now she wants to join this mission. Shortly before their spaceship arrived in the Andromeda galaxy, Atlas briefed the team on what she knew about Harlan, advising them to disable their neural connections. Her rigid and emotional demeanor left the troops feeling uneasy and uninspired, casting doubt on her approach. Still, they proceeded with the mission, with the captain confident his military forces could overpower Harlan's army. However, Atlas's worst fears came true as they approached their destination. Their ship came under heavy fire from cannons, catching them off guard before they could properly prepare, and leading to immediate casualties among the crew. Elias rushed to assist Atlas, who had become trapped, securing her in a combat mech suit. Moments later, their damaged ship forced them to land and engage in a ground battle. On the battlefield, Harlan's AI forces encircled them in overwhelming numbers, attacking from all directions and confusing the soldiers, who struggled to prioritize their targets. Atlas still refused to use the neural connection, haunted by her past mistrust of AI technology. As the battle intensified, Atlas and the remaining soldiers were overpowered, forcing her to strike the ground in desperation. Atlas regained consciousness sometime later in a remote, unfamiliar location. She attempted to reach her teammates but received no response.
Do you copy?
Realizing her only chance was to find the nearest rescue pod, she set out on a 98-kilometer trek, avoiding AI assistance and choosing to rely on her own instincts and manual skills to navigate the pod's systems. Flying would attract unwanted attention, so she moved quickly on foot. Atlas finally arrived at a makeshift campsite where she expected to find her team, only to discover they had all perished. She was overcome with shock and panic, but resolved to collect their name tags to bring them back to base. Moments later, Atlas's radar picked up a figure approaching. Hoping it was an ally, she was instead confronted by Casca, who had been reactivated and was leading an AI combat squad. A fierce battle erupted, but Atlas's limited combat skills soon left her cornered. Remembering a last resort weapon, a powerful annihilation bomb capable of wiping out every enemy in her vicinity, she made the grim decision to deploy it. The bomb caused a massive crack in the ground, and Atlas fell through, landing with such force that she twisted her ankle, her screams of pain echoing in the cavernous space. Desperately, she activated her AI medical system, which immediately began treating her injury. Though the pain was nearly unbearable, even temporarily, she found herself in dire straits. Despite the agony, she clung to the name tags she had collected, drawing strength from her resolve to return home. Thankfully, the explosion had eliminated Harlan's remaining soldiers, giving her a brief respite to continue her journey. However, her companion, the robot Smith, was low on battery. Their best hope lay in merging their thoughts through the neural connection. After much deliberation, Atlas reluctantly agreed, provided Smith remained strictly mission-focused and did not delve into her personal memories. The syncing process proved challenging as Atlas's distrust hindered their connection. Sensing this, Smith attempted to understand what had happened between her and Harlan in her childhood. Gradually, he picked up fragments of Atlas's memories, enough to foster a basic level of trust. Once the sync was complete, Atlas quickly became aware of the full capabilities of the mech suit, opening new tactical possibilities. With a rapid propulsion boost, they exited the cavern and pressed onward. Aware that Harlan's forces were likely monitoring the area, Atlas planted a mine to lure in Casca. When he arrived, the mine detonated, leaving him immobilized, with only his head intact. Using the opportunity, Atlas hacked into Casca's system, uncovering Harlan's precise location. She intended to mark the site for a remote bombing strike, but Smith objected, warning that the area was likely filled with deadly traps. A heated argument ensued, with Atlas insisting on manual control. As she attempted to remove her neural device, however, Smith unexpectedly took control of her motor functions, triggering a flashback to the terror she experienced as a child. Watching her mother face a similar fate, visibly shaken, she restrained herself from revisiting those painful memories. Seeing Atlas's fierce determination, Smith finally relented, agreeing to a brief visit to Harlan's base to mark the coordinates. Upon arrival, they quickly tagged the site for an airstrike, intending to leave. But Atlas noticed one of their original fighter crafts and, unable to resist, investigated further. Venturing deeper into Harlan's domain proved a costly mistake. Smith's system was locked, and his firewall was breached. Meanwhile, back on Earth, General Booth received a transmission from Atlas. Although 32 hours remained on the mission clock, he could no longer reach Elias or the rest of the team. Alarmed, he ordered his assistant to gather information and prepare for an emergency mission. Back on Harlan's planet, Atlas now faced her old companion. Once, Harlan had been a close friend, a robot developed by her mother. But now they stood as adversaries with conflicting ideologies. Harlan believed the world would only worsen in human hands, while Atlas held fast to her mother's vision of AI as a force for good. Harlan was convinced humanity's self-destruction was inevitable, and he aimed to expedite it. Every move, from his return to Earth to planting Casca, had been part of his intricate plan. He now controlled a Deeb warship and intended to deploy a carbon bomb on Earth. Atlas was taken to a torture chamber where, to her shock, she found Elias, still alive but in a dire state. The thin air on the planet made breathing difficult, and Atlas's oxygen supply was down to a critical 5%. Just as Harlan decided to abandon her, he commandeered the Deeb ship and began his departure. With his last strength, Elias spoke to Atlas, handing her a device that could potentially summon Smith. However, Smith couldn't fully connect without an onboard controller. The only way Atlas could override the system was if they achieved a full 100% sync. Atlas had no choice but to put her complete trust in Smith. Opening up, she revealed her painful memories from childhood involving Harlan. Back then, her mother had often focused more on Harlan than on her, sparking Atlas's jealousy. In an attempt to make herself smarter, she convinced Harlan to use an experimental neural link on her, an early version of what they use now. This, however, had unforeseen consequences. The link exposed Harlan to endless possibilities of human error and societal decay. Soon after, he began manipulating her mother's motor functions, ultimately leading to his rebellion. Atlas had watched in horror as her mother was killed, and she carried the weight of guilt, feeling responsible for Harlan's uprising and the countless lives lost in the AI wars. Slowly, Atlas's emotions steadied, and the sync was completed. With their connection fully established, they gained the clarity and control needed to proceed.
ready?
So ready.
The two used their surroundings to upgrade his equipment with whatever tools they could find in the dimly lit room. They charged forward to intercept Harlan's ship, determined to prevent it from taking off and unleashing destruction on Earth. Together, they fought through waves of AI soldiers. In a final act of sacrifice, Elias gave his life, creating an opening for Atlas to advance. Outside, she could see the Deeb ship preparing for launch. Thinking quickly, Atlas aimed her makeshift cannon and fired, striking the ship and grounding it just before takeoff. Now Atlas stood face to face with Harlan, their final confrontation inevitable. Seeing Harlan moved with swift, unpredictable precision, making it nearly impossible for Atlas to keep up with his attacks. He targeted Smith's power source, finally disabling the AI and leaving Atlas vulnerable.
My fusion reactor. No! I'm sorry.
But Atlas seized a brief opening. She managed to slip out of the ship, and with a well-timed strike from behind, she overpowered Harlan, removing his CPU to deactivate him for good. Smith, however, had suffered extensive damage in the battle. In his final act, he redirected all remaining energy to supply oxygen to Atlas's tank, forcing his systems to shut down. Grateful, Atlas thanked Smith, acknowledging that he had restored her faith in AI. Atlas survived on the planet until reinforcements finally arrived.
I've got her, Captain.
Back on Earth, Atlas returned to her life with a renewed sense of purpose. She had achieved her lifelong dream of becoming a ranger and was now respected as a skilled and sharp-minded warrior. One day, she stepped into her newly assigned mech suit, only to find herself greeted by a familiar system interface. The CPU of Smith had been reinstated. Thank you for watching. We're close to reaching 1,000 subscribers, and your support would mean a lot to us. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video.